So with the 4.5 update, this new feature called Training Guide has been added to Genshin. Now, my first reaction to this was...
I'm in danger!
Because if you watch any of my videos, you know that I make a lot of guides and go through character builds. So I thought this is it. This is the end for my channel. Surely, people will just use this new feature and won't bother looking up guide videos on YouTube. Now, in reality, I'm not sure what kind of an impact this feature will have on my channel, but I was curious. I wanted to see what exactly does it do, and is it really helpful? And I know you guys who watch me think this training guide I'm about to cover is really basic and probably only useful for newbies. But think of it like this. Let's pretend we're going to be the older sibling for the newbies, and we're just looking out for them. We want to see how reliable this training guide can be for them, and if we can vouch for it. And trust me, there's a lot of peculiar things I've discovered about this feature, and I think you'll find some of them surprising. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor. This video is sponsored by Tower of Fantasy, a free-to-play shared open-world MMORPG available both on PC and mobile. Customize your own cool anime character, team up to fight bosses, and discover the world together with awesome vehicles and relics. And right now, in version 3.7, the long-awaited Evangelion collaboration has just begun, and as a fan of the anime, I cannot tell you how ready I am to experience existential dread once more. But seriously, this collab is pretty amazing. There's a new chapter in the story where you will be able to team up with the 3 Evangelion weapons, and even have a chance to jump into Tower of Fantasy's own unique mecha to take on the Massive Angels. And for a limited time, complete Evangelion-themed missions, which will award you with tons of rewards, including Smart Servant Pen Pen, the cutest penguin there is. But you can also obtain the new Soul Plug vehicle, which allows you to traverse various terrain. And best of all, you can obtain Asuka as the new character. I mean, just look at her. I really like this thematic special effect of black and red when she's demolishing her enemies. And you know, she's full of fury here when she has to think about Shinji's and Rei's friendship. So make sure to download Tower of Fantasy by using my link in the description, because now is the best time to jump into the game and obtain the new playable character Asuka, while at the same time, a ton of collab rewards await you, including Red Nucleus, Dark Crystals, special vouchers, and more. Most important of all, you'll help support my channel, so download Tower of Fantasy now. Okay, so from what I understand, there's 2 ways how you can access this training guide. First method would be by just navigating to it from the menu and clicking here, but supposedly, it will also show up when you die with your whole team. However, I was not able to see it because, apparently, this training guide will only pop up for players who are below world level 6, something that I haven't thought about for ages. So I guess it makes sense it wants to guide people who struggle when they lose, and immediately show up to provide some suggestions. But what does this training guide suggest? Well, first, the funniest thing I've noticed was this evaluation of the character's adventure power. For my Amber, it says, a bit weak, try leveling up. And to me, this is a bit funny because like, oh, you know, Amber's just a bit weak right now. But if you level her up following our suggestions, she's going to be the Terminator. And before Amber mains ambush me in the Valley of the Shadow of Death, I get it, the guide is just telling the newbie that there's still ways how you can increase her power. Remember that MTashed video about 10x damage? Well, this is the 10x damage guide because, believe it or not, a lot of people, especially when starting off, and if this is their first gacha game, they might not know that raising characters' talents can be a big deal. And speaking of which, I like the way this is designed. It basically shows the exact same data from the talent menu, providing suggestions what to level up, and if you're missing materials, it will also tell you on what days the resources are available and how much resin it costs. This is nice. In fact, you can even click on the pin here to quickly navigate to where the resources are located. So like, I can start tracking monsters with just a few clicks. Also, and this is probably the best thing I like about this feature, it remembers your navigation. So if you go to a menu by clicking here and just press cancel, you can go back to the training guide. So it's a pretty fluid way to go through several steps when upgrading your characters based on the suggestions. Now, let's take Alhaitham as an example. You can see my dude is considered by the guide as formidable, truly a reliable champion, which I can agree 100%. I've been farming overworld and domains with him for a long time, but I did notice that talent recommendations are a bit off here. Now, the thing about damage dealers who rely on spread reactions like Alhaitham here, usually you don't need to invest too hard into their talents since all the heavy lifting will be done by spread reactions amplifier. And in fact, raising characters level is a lot more beneficial because of how the reaction's damage will scale. However, even when I look at these talent priorities, sure, the skill is definitely top priority, since it deals best non-spread damage, but I was a bit surprised to see the burst to be considered a second priority, while normal attacks are just written off as needed. Thing is, if you don't burst with him every rotation, normal attacks are definitely better to invest into, and if you do burst off cooldown with him, they should be leveled at least equally, because at the end of the day, the damage output is about the same whichever you pick to level up, since the man spends good amount of time on field. Basically, this talent recommendation overview is pretty simplistic, and it doesn't take into account several scenarios. And I know this data was already available before, and it's based on the active users, but come on. This button here is so hard to notice, and I forget about it all the time, while in training mode, it's pretty clear, and it even actively encourages you to take action based on these recommendations. Still, overall, I think it's fine, but at least this means that these recommendations lack the nuance for specific scenarios. Now, the next tab is artifacts. Basically, I've already covered this in my older video, nothing new here, except you can see here again how much resin it costs to obtain the recommended sets, and you can also immediately navigate to the domain, which is always nice when it comes to streamlining the guide experience. However, the biggest and most exciting thing for this feature had to be the weapons section. This is the type of data that we have never had access to. We were only able to see the most popular talents, artifact sets, and artifact main stats when reviewing a character. But now, we can also see what weapons the player base uses, since it clearly states data is sourced from recently active players, which is the exact same thing that's been said about artifacts and talents. Now, I love Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinal Neuvillette. This guy has been my go-to unit when I just want to turn off my brain and farm mindlessly while I'm watching some YouTube videos on my second monitor. And one of the best selling points about him is that he can utilize Prototype Amber really well, especially in Furina teams. So I was so glad to see that people are using it and... wait. What? Why is it not showing? Tome of Internal Flow, Sacrificial Jade, and Lost Prayer to the Sacred Winds? What? Am I missing something here? Literally 2 pay-to-win weapons and 1 standard banner 5-star weapon? Do so many people really have Sacred Winds? I mean, the game already has 80 playable characters as of now. I cannot maintain deep knowledge about all of them without refreshing my memory. But last time I checked, Prototype Amber for Neuvillette is usually better than the 5-star stat sticks, especially Sacred Winds, since he can gain 36 critical rate from Hunter's set. So you can just slap on him critical rate circlet and you're good to go. Like, I don't know, if any of you hardcore Neuvillette mains can answer me why Sacred Winds is showing up here, I'd be interested to hear about it. Anyway, I would really prefer Hoyoverse to show at least one free-to-play option for players here. Like, if we look at my boy Albedo, the weapon recommendations are perfect. Harbinger of Dawn, which is super easy to obtain with max refinement, Cinnabar Spindle, and Primordial Jade Cutter. Now, the other character that surprised me was none other than Benny Boy. I'm so used to thinking about Favonius' sword as part of Benny's kit. But interestingly enough, out of the 3 recommended weapons, Sapwood Blade was taking up the 4-star weapon slot. No Favonius in sight. And you know what? I think that's pretty accurate. And you can easily craft max refined Sapwood Blade. A lot of the times, I run Benny with Xiangling, who is a complete energy hawk when it comes to her burst. So in all honesty, I forgot this weapon exists. Even though I have reviewed it, and it is one of the best craftables in the game, despite the fact that Benny won't trigger this passive that often. But hey, it's got a great base attack to help his burst provide big attack boost, and energy recharge substat is also super important for many comps. Like, truth be told, I went through most of the character weapon recommendations, and they seemed fine. Without context, it is hard to know which one is the best for them, but for newbies, I think it's important that Hoyoverse includes at least one free-to-play option for each character, even if they are the featured 5-star. Or honestly, just provide more than 3 options. I'm not sure if they think this would be overwhelming, but with just 3 options, choices become much more narrowed down, and can leave out some important weapons that people could be still using. I understand that this is based on recent player data, but it wouldn't hurt to have some free-to-play options for each character. But yeah, the last thing that's left to look at is the character's level tab. Pretty self-explanatory, just shows you which materials you need to ascend the character, and you can also easily navigate to quickly start farming for them. Like, overall, I think this feature is pretty decent for newbies. It's got a great overview for everything that you need to do, it tells you how to increase your character's power level, it's got a nice navigation system where you can go back and review the info once again after you're done equipping or leveling stuff up, and yeah, maybe with this feature Hoyo can finally consider to add some new endgame for Abyss, or new challenges, because now, even the casuals will notice this feature, especially if they die with their team and this feature pops up. Although I think some things like actually recommending which main stats to go for power could be refined a bit more, since you still need to click these barely noticeable buttons in the artifacts menu, while in the training guide, only the sets are shown. Still, let me know what you guys think about this new feature. Do you think newbies will find it useful? Or maybe if you're someone who just started playing the game, do you find it useful? And of course, do you think I should throw in the towel and pursue my career elsewhere? Or will this feature won't have an impact on my channel? Anyway, I hope you guys found this video entertaining. It's not my usual stuff, and I wanted to do something different for a change. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.